But let's get into Andor season 2. We've got the first 3 episodes to break down. Wade, I know you are currently bidding on eBay.
Yeah. Sorry, you can keep seeing me look over. I'm trying to win
No,
this
no,
lot,
you're
but
good. You're
go
good.
ahead and give an intro here to Andor
So
season 2.
a year has passed since Marva Andor was laid to rest, and she obviously her last words were "fight the Empire." So we are seeing that. We've got Andor stealing is it a it's an a TIE Avenger. I think it's not an interceptor. It's an Avenger. I think that's the class. I'm not sure. But we get this 3 episode premiere titled BBY 4, which is the year, obviously, but also you get a title per episode as well. But yeah, guys, let's jump into this first episode. I think it's titled 1 Year Later, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so you get that really crisp shot that Jacob talked about where Andor's stealing the ship, but also one of the rebels is helping him, and she's like, "I'm kind of risking my life here," but she's even kind of conflicted because she's like, "Hey, I've had fun here. I kind of like it here,"
That was
you
cool.
know?
She could tell she was a new rebel. This was the first thing she had done.
Yeah.
Obviously, she probably had felt conflicted about the Empire, but also seems like it was a pretty peaceful place, a testing facility. Mechanics just checking things, pilots just flying ships. It doesn't seem like anything too dark was happening there. So yeah, she probably did have fun there. I mean, you saw she had some,
Yeah,
camaraderie with her coworker. And I love that nuance.
for sure. Yeah. And he does not know how to drive it, which was kind of cool. The visuals were really awesome in this episode. So he ends up like you get that snow trooper with the rocket launcher. He kind of has to use like the photons to destroy the door so he can get out of there. But he's like freaking out, and I think on the comms he's like, "I've been upside down for 2 days," like because he does not know how to drive it. He crash lands on a planet where with those rebels that don't really have a leader, so they're kind of just in chaos. And I like how there's like this weird like dynamic almost of like the rebellion is not fully formed. Some factions don't know what to do, because like there's not a lot of communication possibly yet. You don't have Leia, you don't have all of these characters formulating everything on Yavin 4, like we see in New Hope. So somehow everything's going to connect within these 3 years, possibly, where Andor obviously gets connected to Yavin 4 and all of that, Jake. So,
I
how'd
love
you
this
feel?
too because,
Yeah,
or just because for BBY is when Star Wars Rebels starts taking place,
yeah,
and in that show they make a pretty strong point of there is not much of an organized rebellion. It's mostly rebel cells, and so you're right. It's just it's getting there, but it's not quite cohesive yet. It's not the alliance. The Rebel Alliance is not around yet. Um, and I love that they're able to take, all we hear about in the movies. In the original movies are the Rebel Alliance, and right now there's just different rebels. They're not
yep,
really in
yep.
alliance yet. And the show Rebels touched on that a pretty good amount. Although I think that by the time Phoenix Squad joined, the crew of the Ghost, I think the alliance had already been formed. So I'm sure this is going to dive a little bit more into that.
How all these factions get together and form
Yeah,
the alliance
and
to take on the Empire.
the infighting was really, really an awesome touch. I really loved this story, and it was my least favorite of the stories in the episodes. I'm not saying that because it was bad, just because
Same,
I
yeah.
want to highlight how good the other stories were. I'm glad this one was only 2 episodes, but the infighting was a great touch because these people are radicals. In a good way, they're fighting against the Empire, but they're so intense, they're so hot headed, and they're so leaderless that they turn on each other because they seem like they're pretty
Yeah.
intense people. And I think that will happen. I think it's unrealistic that all rebels are altruistic people who all get
And they're all
along and are all doing
united
the
in the
right
same
thing.
idea.
These are people who are full of rage, and they're full of anger. And yeah, technically they're the good guys, but I'm not sure they're really good people. Again, and that's in stark contrast with the mechanic we met, who was working for the Empire, and was a good person, it seemed like. So we've
Yeah.
got bad people on the rebel side, good people on the Empire side, and none of them really doing any actions to contradict that. Really, really
Mm,
nuanced character work with just these throw off, almost maybe throwaway characters.
yeah. Yeah, I believe, some like I know what they were doing. Like Andor had to be kind of kept away so they could kind of what's happening on the other planet, the Wheatfield planet, so that could all play out. I understood what they were doing, but I felt a little bit of that filler, with these few episodes where it's like, man, come on, like why is Andor stuck here? This is boring. I don't care about these random rebels who are fighting. But the visuals were cool, and they're trying to turn the TIE Avenger to shoot at them, so that was kind of interesting. I like the mechanics of that. That was very fun. But also you have so that side, the other sides. There's a lot of stories. It does feel very grand in scope. You've got all of these different characters from season one, obviously. And it's all hopefully going to tie together at some point. By the end of the episode, it does a little bit. But we have this wheat field section where these people are technically illegals, these rebels that are, I think they're laying low on this planet. Am I correct in saying that, right?
Yeah, because it
Um
seemed like since they were part of that little rebellion, that little uprising on Ferrix at the end of season one,
yes. Yeah.
it seems like that if the Empire finds out who they are, they'll be arrested.
Yeah, for sure. And so you got Bix and I can't remember the other character's name. You got
Yeah, what's that guy's name, man? They
what's
even
his
said it
name?
like five
Brazo.
times.
Brazo. Right? Brazo.
Yeah, browser.
And so,
Yeah,
yep. And you have this other character, the guy who's in love with one of the local girls. So that was interesting. But they're kind of playing into that. The Imperials could come around at any moment. They could do a evaluation of the area, and they've already been finding some rebels, some groups hiding as well. So it's kind of like terrifying, and it's kind of like that. If you've watched, I believe it's Inglorious Bastards, right? Where the Nazis could just show up at any moment and find the hidden Jews. That's what it kind of felt like a little bit. That scene
yeah,
at the beginning
very
of that
much.
movie. And so it's suspenseful and it's interesting. Wade, how'd you feel about this segment where the Imperials, the impies they call them, are on the prowl?
Um, I don't know. Honestly, I thought it was a little boring. Kind of light on action. The whole
For
this whole
sure.
episode kind of felt like, yeah, light on action, Jacob. I like action in Star Wars. I get that Andor is more of a kind of they have more time to delve into the dialogue between characters, and you checked in with every character that we were supposed to like from the previous season. But
Yeah.
I don't know, wasn't really into it as much as I would have wanted to be. So
I think they're trying to build a little bit. It did feel slow for me as well, a little bit. They're trying to build so you kind of are connecting with these characters, which I understand. Um, but also they're trying to build that fear. I think they could have elevated that fear a little bit more. Maybe they kill a few characters. I don't know, but it was interesting. Jake, how'd you feel about this whole stuff?
I think the fear actually doesn't come from like seeing a character die, but the fact that they know they're sweeping these segments of the planet one by one, and
Yeah,
they keep on hearing like, oh yeah, they found some runners here, they grabbed some runners there, and I think the fear is they don't know what happens to them because in season one, Bix wasn't killed; she was tortured beyond belief, and she's obviously still processing that.
they do play
Um,
into that a little bit with her dreams. Yeah,
mhm. And then her dreams, she dreams that the guy who tortured her in season one is coming for her in the night. And they
yeah,
show in that dream sequence the guy looks at himself in the mirror, and then when her attempted shows up, the imperial officer head in charge of the audit, he stops and he looks at himself in the mirror. It's her worst dreams realized. That was
yeah,
one of the scariest things I've ever seen. It was that moment when he stopped and he looked at himself in the mirror. All of a sudden, it hit me. This is her worst fear ever come to life. This is the thing she has nightmares about every
yeah.
night. It's scarier than an audit or being relocated or imprisoned. I mean, this is it was
Yeah.
masterful.
Just be careful because we can't say the grape word on YouTube, Jake. We might get
Oh, really?
demonetized. So just be careful. Yeah, but that it is a serious tone show for sure. In a world of mass genocide and slavery, obviously this stuff could happen. I know there's some controversy online currently about it. Like, why is this in Star Wars? I don't really know how I feel about it. George Lucas would always kind of cut away from some implied stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like when Anakin turns on the lightsaber, and the little younglings are in the room. You obviously know he killed all of them, or like say Anakin's mom is captured by the Tusken Raiders. There's some implied stuff there, obviously, as well. So I don't really know how I feel about it, but very dark, obviously, and they're kind of playing up that the Imperials are, nasty. I don't know. I don't know. There's some theories online like Darth Vader wouldn't allow this. Like, obviously, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, because Darth Vader's like evil, but he's not like sick. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it. I don't know, Jake. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, it was incredibly dark, and it was supposed to be incredibly unsettling and make you be
Yeah.
really, really uncomfortable because it's an uncomfortable thing to confront. But yeah, that's not the kind of evil that Darth Vader's into. Dark wizardry evil, I want power,
Yeah.
and that's just a very scary human evil.
Yes. Yes.
I have problem with it. I know it's trying to be TV, 14, like
Yeah.
MA, basically, like darker Star Wars, but I don't think it belongs in Star Wars. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, it's playing into the fear of everything. But let's get into the Mon Mothma side. Oh, wait, no. Sorry, let's get into the Deidre side.
That's a crazy
This is my
twist.
favorite part. This is my favorite part of the entire
This was
first
mine
three
too.
episodes.
I thought it was hilarious.
You get Deidre and Cyril Karn, of course. And it seems like they're dating. So
They
I was
are.
like,
It
what
looks
in
like
the
they live
world?
together. They live together now. It's ridiculous. It was so funny. It was such a joke in season 1. They're bickering and maybe attraction, and they couldn't stand each other. And he's like,
Yeah.
I'm important. I need to help. And she's like, please stay away from me. And yet now here they are together. Obviously, he saved her life in season 1, and
Oh, yeah.
she
Yeah.
obviously probably really really kind of, I guess, fell in love with him. That's crazy. When they showed
Yeah.
that they had an apartment together, I actually couldn't stop laughing. It's just such a funny character beat. And it serves both of their characters really well. And they slice into it with the relationship with his mom, which we know is messed up. His mom is awful.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
And
and here's the funny thing I kept thinking was like he's basically marrying like a version of his mother who's going to like control him, because did you hear the conversation between her and the
Yes.
mother where
Yeah.
she's like, I will make sure that he visits you twice a week, and and I'm just like, oh no, poor Cyril. Except I guess he's making out all right. So
yeah, I'm wondering.
The mom is
his,
awful. The way she talks about him, is like, oh, he can't handle it. He's not strong. He's weak. Like, oh my gosh, like, geez, Louise. No wonder he is the way he is. He's always
yeah.
trying to prove himself. He's desperate to find Andor as well, which they kind of mentioned that. What is Andor's code name? I can't remember. Axis or something.
Well, their Axis is Stellan Skarsgård's character, Luthen.
That's right. Sorry. Yeah, Luthen.
But,
That's what I meant. Yeah.
well, he's been out of it for a year now. It seems like he's embraced his corporate life, and embraced his home life. I don't think it's much on his mind anymore. Deidre's obviously incredibly
more
into
so.
Axis.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not even sure Cyril's an evil person. I'm not even sure he's a bad person. He's a lot like Inspector Javert from Les Miserables, where he's so obsessed with the rule of law that he'll do the wrong thing just because technically it seems right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he knows that Deidre is truly an evil person. But she's obviously going to be important in this story and get mixed up with Cassian and Luthen's story, and that's going to pull him right back into it. And I'm interested to see where that takes his character. For a scene of them sitting in the apartment talking with his mom, the setup for later in the season is ridiculous.
Nice. Yeah. I love it. That's the best part of the show. I'm excited to see what she is going to be doing. Like, obviously, we also got the director Krennic scene, which was really awesome Director Krennic's trying to give her this like crappy job basically with the spiders or whatever. Like this planet is really important to us, go there and extract all this stuff. But she really wants like the ground level, killing the rebels more so. You know what I mean? Instead of like the planet control, which we see a lot in Rebels with Ezra's planet, where they try to like control a planet for its resources. She's more so about catching the rebels, which is pretty bold move, obviously. So
Yeah, she wants to hunt spies, not control a planet. But
yeah.
I'm sure when the show picks up again, we're going to see her in control of this planet, since it's likely going to be
Oh,
a
because
time.
it's a year later, she's gonna have to do it. Maybe you think?
And I think that's how Krennic's going to come back into the story. Is she's going to be reporting
Ah,
directly to him. It's a great way to work him in, knowing that he's working on his secret project. And I love the line where he says, Grand Moff Tarkin can't know, because he hates Tarkin so much. I mean, that's obvious. He can't
yeah.
stand Tarkin. So I love that he's going to people that he selects instead of his superiors to oversee projects for the building of the Death Star. That's a great way to work him into the story very naturally.
You think we're gonna get any cameos like that, like Tarkin or Darth Vader or Sidious, maybe?
I
We'll
don't
see.
know. As of right now, it doesn't really seem like Krennic's a point of view character. It seems like he's tertiary to Deidre's story.
Yeah.
So I think he might be the big appearance of the season. I'm
Okay.
certain we haven't seen the last of him, because it seems like her story with him is going to continue. But I don't think we're going to follow him very much on his own.
True. Yeah, it's more so Deidre and how she's driven to do it. And also the scene with Cyril Karn talking to an employee, and he's like, "I used to be just like you." Like, that was kind of hilarious. I
That
was
was
like,
so
"What?"
good, dude.
He's just
I
Oh
used
the
to.
best
man,
character.
he was like born to
Oh,
do that job. So funny.
so funny. So yeah, this gets us into Mon Mothma. Obviously, we're kind of just breaking this down by the different
Yeah, it's
stories
a
that
good
are
way to
going
do it.
throughout.
Stories. Yeah.
So Mon Mothma, this is throughout all 3 episodes, I believe, and her daughter's wedding that was kind of foreshadowed in the first season. It's kind of this alliance of these two families, but it's kind of also playing into her like still living her old life, and she's not kind of not about it almost like she wants to be more so into the rebellion, I'm assuming, or she's just not feeling this like this empire, like the rich and empire type lifestyle. I don't know. But also there's some sort of backstory with her friend from childhood who's kind of going back on his word type deal. Like, wasn't he helping the rebels
Yeah, this
financially, right?
so the Tay Colma character they introduced in season one, he was a banker, her oldest friend,
Yeah,
and he was going to help her move money because she was moving money on her own at the start of season one, and it
yeah.
was getting noticed, and that's why she was being watched. So he had her, she had him, as a banker, take control of her accounts and set up this foundation. And it seemed like it was all very above board and that they were like-minded rebels.
The
But
foundation,
yeah,
yeah.
but now he's and I mean from you can tell from the dialogue in the show he's been away for a year. He's been spiraling. I think they say his wife left him,
Yep.
and he owes money, and he feels like he should be compensated for his work.
For
Um,
helping the
and
rebels, right? Yeah.
exactly, and he's like, we need to talk what I could get paid for what I'm doing, my risk.
Yeah.
And I don't think this guy who's spiraling understands
The
just who is on
ramifications.
the ramifications of what he's saying.
Yeah.
This was a pretty shocking story for me because he seemed very, very level headed in the first season, but seeing that he's spiraled is pretty scary. But the effects of living a secret life like that, I think, can take a toll on people, and it's kind of scary Mon Mothma because she's doing the same thing. She's leading a bit of a double life, and she sees
Her
Luthen on.
husband thinks it's like that she's cheating on him.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and
she's like, it's not even that. It's that she's like a total criminal, against the
exactly.
empire.
Yeah, really, really interesting stuff, and just every aspect of her life is falling apart. Her rebellion partner Luthen is up to something, and she can't know about it. Her husband thinks she's having an affair. Her daughter hates her and is um, embracing these traditions that she seems to despise.
Yep.
and her oldest friend is threatening to extort the Luthen, and we know that that's not going to go well for him. And dude, she is just crashing out. It is a ridiculously painful week for
Yeah.
her.
And her husband's speech about how like pain will find you, but that's all the more reason we must reach for joy. It's like kind of like telling that like their mindset in the during the empire, like the rich and the powerful have no clue like what's going on, but she's more zoned in on the people,
Hmm.
which we'll see eventually like in Rebels and all of that, you know. That's what she's focused on. But this rich and powerful is like, reach for joy, and everything's fine and dandy, blah blah blah, and that's kind of like a breaking point for her, where she starts just dancing like crazy. I was like, what is going on? She's having a mental breakdown. Pretty wild.
Yeah, and that came right after Luthen pretty much said, we are going to kill Take Holma. And she just couldn't take it anymore. She just let loose. It was it was pretty
Oh, and did you
odd to
catch this?
see.
Did you
It was
catch the statue too, as well? Like the traditions of the statue, like this is worth like billions and billions of credits, just like the
Mhm.
lavish of being so rich is like bothering her, as well. I think that is kind of feeding into it as well. And she's also conflicted. It's just wild. I don't know. She's an
Yeah,
interesting
I think that
character.
was we saw like the worst time of her life. Probably the worst consecutive couple of days ever.
Mm,
Losing her family, losing her friends, completely alone. It was a pretty interesting way to show it.
for sure. Wait, how'd you feel about Mon Mothma? Obviously, she's an OG character from the originals. Where do you think this is leading up to? Where she's in Rebels and also in Empire Strikes Back and all of those movies.
I do
Return of the
wonder if
Jedi.
she's gonna have to leave it all. You know,
Oh,
like I think there's that thing in Rebels where she like denounces the Empire or something. There's like an
yeah,
episode of that,
Mhm.
so I think
yeah.
that it's gonna have to lead up to that. Obviously,
Do you think
um,
that's in the show? That would be crazy. Her
that'd be
speech,
interesting.
but in live action,
I
that
wouldn't
would be
mind them doing that.
so good, dude. Man, that's gonna be scary for her family and Perrin, obviously her husband and everything, because he has no clue. She can't
Yeah,
even include him, is
it,
what it feels like,
you
right?
know, it's hard to even dislike her husband too much. Like you're saying, it's just like he's blind to everything.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure I really liked him in season one. I don't really think I like him now, but I don't think I hate him. I think he's just another one of these people that just
he's just caught
can't
up in it.
can't understand what's going on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately his personality, I think he's gonna laugh and balk at any, sense of doing the right thing because again, he just can't even fathom what's happening
Yeah.
out there.
So I was confused about the Luthen conflict with her. Like, what number? They kept talking about a number. I wasn't really sure what was going on there.
Tay Colma demanded, he said, I need to be
Who's
compensated.
Tacoma?
The banker, her old friend.
The guy with
Okay.
the white hair wig.
Yeah, yeah.
He was saying, I've risked so much for you, with your foundation, moving your money into the rebellion. My life is falling apart and I'm taking all this risk. I think I need to be compensated
Yep.
for my actions. And she's like, we'll talk next week.
Did you
So
kind of catch what was implied though?
what's that?
At the end, with Luthen's like, I'll handle it, right? And then
Mhm.
the driver shows up for the banker, and it's the girl from season one who works for Luthen.
Mhm.
So is she gonna kill him? That's what I think.
100%. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, is that what's
Um,
implied
I,
there?
I think it was. I think it was implied in their conversation that
Yep.
when Luthen and Mon Mothma were hushed in the corner, she knew because Luthen said, we can't." She said, "We're going to meet with him next week, and we're going to give him a number, and that'll be it." She thinks
Oh,
we're
okay.
so that's the figure, the number you were talking about.
Yeah, the
She
number
thinks we're
to
just going
pay
to pay him
to
off,
pay him off.
and that's going to be that. And Luthen says, we can't let this stand, right? And she walks away, practically accepting it. So,
Okay.
yeah,
See, I didn't get any of that. It was kind of
Well, wait,
unclear.
I
Honestly.
realized like I should have watched the first season before because I was like, man, I'm forgetting stuff, and I'm having to do like a re-evaluation of the first season to understand
Okay.
all of this Mon Mothma stuff because it was really deep. All of the stuff she's communicating to so many different people, on what is going on. It is kind of layered a little bit.
Yeah, it is very politicky. Like, I
which is
talk to
good.
this person, I talk to you.
That's like the
Yeah.
prequels a little bit.
It puts the politics in the prequels to shame, honestly. Just the sheer nuance of it.
I like the politics in the prequels.
That's the politics. The politics in the prequels is more like the grand sweeping. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the huge announcement to the ginormous council for the Republic. And you have every single planet representative. This is more so the behind the scenes of the rebellions, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like the formulation and where's the money going, and Mon Mothma and Luthen. Luthen's kind of doing the secretive stuff. Mon Mothma's helping move the funds around with this banker, obviously. But eventually she's going to denounce the Empire, which is wild. So, crazy. What happens next? We see Andor escapes, right? He gets back to the TIE Avenger, getting back to the planet just in time to save Bix and the boy. But Brazo is killed by the stormtroopers, right? If I'm correct in saying that. So, kind of a somber moment. But I felt like I didn't really know the character,
That's what I was
to
gonna
be
say.
so
I
upset
didn't
about
feel
it.
super
But
sad about him because I was just like,
yeah.
didn't know him.
So that's the one thing I kind of struggle a little bit is like I don't care so much about these characters. Like even Cassian, like I didn't really care about him that much in Rogue One.
I was about to say, I got bad news for you about Cassian.
Yeah, I know. Like it's like I already know his end story as well. But we have to kind of see how he gets to this point where he's connected to Yavin and Leia and all and the actual Rebel Alliance. So and K2SO, that's gonna happen. So am I missing anything else that happened, Jake?
Those were the big beats, pretty much. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. We got some like Star Wars lo-fi beats during Cyril and Deidre's dinner, and then we got like techno dance music at the wedding that was like Star Warsified.
That was pretty cool, and it was hype with the end where he saves them in the TIE Avenger. I was like, this is kind of hype, I was like,
something that was cool, and that I think is a little bit of setup is we find out the jungle planet that Cassian was stuck with these idiot rebels on was Yavin 4.
Yes, it was Yavin 4. It had the towers. Yes.
Yeah, it had the temple that will become the rebel base.
Oh.
So that planet's going to be
very key
revisited. Who knows if those characters are ever revisited? I don't think they will. I think it was just a thematic way of showing, look at how disorganized these rebels are now. And then at the end, when they revealed it's Yavin 4, they're like, but look at what will happen. Yeah, actually, there is Yavin 4 right there.
That's the cool thing about this show. They're actually putting in the effort to introduce, instead of it just being like a throwaway thing, it's like actually doing the effort to build up to New Hope and Rogue One. You know what I'm saying? Like they're actually doing the building blocks to get you there instead of it being like just a throwaway, end credit scene type. I don't know. So they're actually doing the effort, hopefully.
Yeah, like I said, my biggest problems were I wish it was a little more action packed. Just me personally, it's a Star Wars show. I think it should have that.
But you got to think it's the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, and it's like I hate to say it this way, but I don't like necessarily turn on Star Wars to dive deep into the dialogue and figure all that out. Like I wanted to be a little surface level, just But anyway, like I was so confused throughout that. I'm glad you guys explained that. I understand it a little better. But
yeah, it is very deep, and so you gotta be honed in. And I've watched a few breakdowns already, just like to be like, man, I need to know what is up, to be able to break it down on the pod for sure. But I think it can only get better, Wade. I think
that's
just hold out.
Hoping each episode gets more and more crazy. So
because like there's some stuff that we haven't even there's tons more episodes. Like there's stuff we have not seen. This seems like everything that was in the trailers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like that was everything I kind of expected from the show. So
except for K2SO.
So I'm pretty curious where it's going to go to.
Yeah. Just hold.
I got to say, it's funny you say there's a ton more episodes because it almost feels like there's only 3 left. Because I almost watched last night's like it was one long episode. And I've got a feeling the others are going to be the same way. It's a pretty interesting way to do it.
It's gonna feel like 4 movies or 3 movies.
Yeah, 4 movies. It did feel
Four
like because it
movies.
was 50 minutes each, so that's basically 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Which this is where I get into this, like, why isn't every show like this, like, format wise? You know what I mean? Like, Tony Gilroy needs to be in charge, maybe, with the structure and making sure every Star Wars project feels the same. Because it feels like so inconsistent. We talked about this earlier. Like, there's just no consistency visually, to Star Wars, it feels like, anymore. The movies do feel very consistent, obviously, because there was a vision throughout, which not the sequels, maybe not so much, but story wise, but visually, I wish everything kind of looked consistent. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, the quality is pretty good in this show. We just got to see where it's going to be a slow burn, Wade, maybe for you.
Yeah, like so far not the most fun yet.
Yeah,
Like
it wasn't fun
Star.
for me either, but
Yeah,
it's
I'm
like,
not sure I'd describe it as fun at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was
Sarah
more just like
Sarah
grindage
always
to
talks
know these
about
characters.
when I watch something that's serious, she'll say, it made me feel yucky. I didn't like it. Um, and it's kind of like that. There's nothing really. Honestly, there's not even anything hopeful about it yet. Obviously,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
building to a new hope, but it was pretty bleak throughout. Nothing good really happened to these characters, whether they were stranded with idiots trying to kill each other, their family hated them, or they had dinner with their in-laws. Everything sucked. But I really I
man.
really do like a lot of the nuance. And as a fan of prestige TV and Star Wars, seeing them meet is really cool.
Yeah.
This is unlike anything else in Star Wars. And it's interesting you say you want other Star Wars to be like this, because I think I agree with Wade that there's a lot here that shouldn't be in what I would call normal Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is almost like a
I'm
unique
saying
experiment.
visually.
I know what you
Visually.
mean there. And so just to merge like a couple thoughts, like there's so much good that other projects could take from this: the sets, the production design, the cinematography, and there's stuff that other projects shouldn't touch: the mature themes,
Yeah.
the bleakness of it all. There's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to leave at the door, because this is a pretty hefty project, and it's not going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy with the quality of it, and even though it's not easily accessible, I would
Yeah.
say, or even particularly enjoyable for what the characters are going through, the experience is a pretty insane ride.
Which maybe they're gonna get some wins, like when Han Solo blows up the when he shoots the TIE fighters and he screams, super. There's some joy there. Maybe there's gonna be some sort of victories in this last little bit where we will feel the joy a little bit
I
of
don't
Star
know.
Wars.
I think it's going to be a pretty bleak season. Um,
It's kind of
and
like Rogue One. Like
it's
just
kind of like Rogue One. I don't think it's
Yeah.
going anywhere too hopeful. Well, actually,
If they-
it is literally leading to hope, but I don't think it's going to be anything good for the characters that we know,
If just
that we've seen
Lucasfilm could
here.
get their ducks in a row, you get the quality of Andor, like the quality wise. You get the action of Filoni and Jon Favreau, and you get the joy of the originals, and even the politics of the sequels in Andor as well. You have that, all of that. So if somebody could capture that, I don't know who's the person to do that, but it's possible.
Robert
the-
Rodriguez.
and we will end on that note.
Yes, yes.